Yeah,
so it's all
I do
on my
as well.
home screen.
I do as well,
Yeah.
but like you were like, oh, it's in this. And I'm like, I accidentally clicked the wrong thing. And I was like, Snake? Like the game Snake. I was like, I have known you, Catherine.
I used to love playing that game.
I have known you
And I forgot that I had that on my phone.
for over 7 years, 7.5 years. I have never once seen you play a game of Snake. Hello and welcome to the Worldwide Honeymoon Travel Podcast, the podcast that talks about all things couples travel, including destinations, tips, advice, and more. I'm Chris.
I'm Kat.
And this is episode number 183.
And this is our last episode before we head out on our big adventure.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. We hope it happens. I have just completely checked and triple checked and quadruple checked our visa requirements, our vaccine requirements, everything that we could possibly need. So I hope that everything's going to go smoothly once we get to the airport.
I hope so too.
Yes.
I really do.
So if you guys haven't been tuning in, we're going to Uganda and Kenya, hopefully, at the end of this week. And, well, by the time this is released, I think we'll probably be home. But yeah, so exciting. That's exciting stuff.
It is. You also have a bit of exciting news that I think is probably going to be your highlight.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I posted this on Instagram today too, but I have like an autoimmune disease where I have hypothyroidism and stuff, and so I've had to get yearly ultrasounds just to check on the nodules and things that develop because of it. And this happened a couple of years ago in 2020, in March of 2020 of all times, where I needed a biopsy because there was a suspicious nodule. Luckily, it came back benign. And then a couple weeks ago, I did my ultrasound per usual each year, and I had a couple of nodules that were suspicious, and it has been, the last couple of weeks have been really, really hard. Yeah, hopefully that hasn't reflected in the episodes, but it's definitely weighed down on me a lot as I've been waiting to hear my results from that biopsy that I just had done. And it was good. It was all benign. Everything's okay. I feel good. Blood works normal. Thyroid's doing great. So that's definitely my highlight. I'm very happy about that. But yeah, it's just another little Hashimoto struggles here. But yeah, I'm very, very thankful that all came back normal. I found that out today and I started crying instantly. And the doctor was like, I hope these are happy tears. And I was like, yes, I've been a big ball of anxious energy ever since I found out I had to get a biopsy done. And I'm so relieved that everything's okay. So I'm very happy about that. Yeah, been praying a lot about it. God is good. I don't have thyroid cancer, at least at the moment. So yeah, I'm very happy about that.
I am too.
What's your highlight?
That's my highlight as well.
Yeah, going to Africa healthy too.
Yeah,
you know, that was weighing on my mind. Is like if this turned out to be thyroid cancer, like
you were putting a lot of pressure on yourself too, because this is one of my like absolute dream bucket list experiences to have, and you were like, oh, I don't want to have, like, in the back of our minds, like, you experiencing this, and, like, what if we get bad news, and blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, if we had, we still would have
gone.
It. Yeah, exactly. Like, it wouldn't have changed anything.
I know, but in my head, I was like, oh, this is such a big trip. We've certainly paid a lot of money for it, and we're very excited, and it's your big bucket list thing, and I just didn't want that hanging over my head, and I'm so thankful and relieved that it's not.
I am as well.
And I'm good. And I don't have to do another biopsy unless these nodules get bigger. So hopefully they don't get bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to chat about?
I think that's it.
All right.
Yeah. What about you?
No.
Okay.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
So today's episode, we are talking about some of our favorite travel apps. This was not a planned episode. I think it was it last episode?
It was last episode. I brought up how many apps I have in regards to travel on my phone.
Not just in regards to travel. You have apps on your phone that I guarantee you have not used in like 5 years. Guaranteed.
Yeah, but
I was looking
at
something on your phone once, I remember, because you were like, oh, it's in like whatever folder.
Because I have it in different like folder sections. Everything is in there.
Yeah,
so it's all
I do
on my
as well.
home screen.
I do as well,
Yeah.
but like you were like, oh, it's in this. And I'm like, I accidentally clicked the wrong thing. And I was like, Snake? Like the game Snake. I was like, I have known you, Catherine.
I used to love playing that game.
I have known you.
And I forgot that I had that on my phone.
For over 7 years, 7.5 years. I have never once seen you play a game of Snake.
You never know.
And then I'm
never
like,
know.
I keep looking and I'm just like, what on earth are some of these apps? But you love apps. You have like a ton of apps. I also like apps, but I have like a smaller amount of them. And there are things that this is like my like declutter mindset constantly. But I will go through first of all, I only have I think 4 apps on my home screen. I have the 4 at the bottom, or no, I'm sorry, I have 8. Because I have like 2 rows and then I get to see my background. And I like doing that. And then I have folders on the second page. And probably like twice a year, I will go into each folder. And if I have not used an app or I didn't even remember having it or what have you, I will delete it off my phone.
Yeah. I mean, as you can imagine, when the Marie Kondo craze went around the world, Christopher was the first to want to purge everything we owned. And I am...
Including Professor.
No, not our cat. But I'm always of the mindset of like, oh, well, I'll use it like one day, so then I have all this stuff.
Can't wait to see you slinging a game of Snake on this trip coming up.
Maybe I will, just to spite you. Well, most of my folders are on the first screen, and I just have a handful of apps on the second screen, so I can see my background, which is a picture of our cat, Professor. But yeah, and I will say that most of my travel apps, like I have pages and pages of them in this folder. A lot of them are airline-specific apps, like United, Delta, like Frontier.
LATAM, which we've flown once.
LATAM, probably. Like Eurowings. Just so many apps where, like, I needed it to, like, check in while we were traveling and, like, did all of my checking in and all of that stuff through them. And I just never deleted them.
You know what? I have an idea for our upcoming long-haul flight.
Okay.
Actually, that wouldn't be enough time to go through your whole phone and delete the apps that you don't use. Never mind.
I mean, I already have movies lined up that I'd like to watch.
Like what?
I've been checking out Netflix and different things that have, well, first of all, Death on the Nile. I've been wanting to see that for a while.
I would like to watch that.
I think I'm going to catch up on Outlander on Netflix. Yes, I'm a season behind. Probably watch those. All of the like 90s rom-coms that I'm finding on like Netflix and Amazon. I want to do like While You Were Sleeping and You've Got Mail and stuff like that. And I'm just loading those up for the flights. And then I know that they have like entertainment.
They have movies on the flights.
Yeah,
too.
I know. But you just never know. It helps to have stuff downloaded on your phone.
I have never done that for a flight.
I do it all the time, but you read a lot on flights.
I
and
do
reading
read a
makes
lot
me
on
feel
flights.
like kind of queasy on flights.
Like with the big words or?
No, it just makes me feel queasy. And I get anxious hearing a lot of
I'm
the
just
sounds
kidding.
on an airplane.
That's fair.
Like that makes me anxious. So instead of if you're wearing, I mean, I guess if you're, reading, you're not usually wearing your headphones versus I like having my headphones in to kind of block out the noise.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Back to apps. We are going to talk about some of our favorite travel apps. All of mine are not necessarily like classic travel. I will say that. Like it's not like Google Maps or something like that. But they are fun apps that I like to use either in preparation for travel or during travel or what have you. And we're going to share some of those today. Before we start, I do have some honorable mentions.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
4 of them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Do you have honorable mentions?
I just have one.
Hit it.
Okay. I will say that mine are more practical. Yours are more fun. I think mine are more the practical stuff. But that's okay. My honorable mention is just Priority Pass. So if you have a credit card that allows you lounge access, I like this app a lot because you can just enter in the airport that you're at and it tells you where to find all the lounges, which is fantastic, whether it's a restaurant or an actual lounge or something like that. I really enjoy having that through Priority Pass. So if you have a Priority Pass membership, download the app, and you can also download your card, so you don't have to like take your card with you. You can just show them on your app, and then you can also look up different lounges and where they're located, which is really nice. What are your honorable mentions?
Well, hold on. I have a question for you.
Okay.
I know that a few apps have started to implement this. Does Priority Pass have like a little map to how to get there yet, or no? Like, I know the United app, when you're in the United app and they're like, oh, welcome to this airport. Here's how you get to the next gate. And like all of that. Do they do that yet or no?
I don't think so. It just tells you like it's next to gate C17 across from Starbucks or something like that. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, I can find like if we're in Concourse C, I'll go to gate C17 and that's where it's going to be. Yeah.
Fair enough. I think that that's kind of like a cool little feature that some of these apps are doing.
Yeah. I mean, what good is like having Priority Pass if you're just running around the airport trying to find where they're located, when you can just go on Priority Pass's their app and it'll tell you.
Alrighty. My 4 honorable mentions.
My goodness.
Right? Number 1 is the Kindle app. Like you said, I read all the time on planes. So that is one of mine. The app Been, Been. Not necessarily a travel app, but it's kind of like the digital version of a scratch-off map. This is something that we have used for quite a while now, just as like a fun little, I don't know, track your travels sort of thing. I like it. This is an app that I have recently started using. I've gone through like a couple iterations of like the same purpose. The app is called Water Llama, and I have sent it to you.
How is that travel related?
It's travel related because
it's a llama.
No, well, yes. And often I do not drink enough water when I travel because like at home I have my water bottle and I know that I will generally fill it up at certain parts of the day.
But when you're on a plane flying to Paris, the Paris incident of 2019 where Christopher drank 0 water the entire duration of our flight from Philly to Paris and was so dehydrated when we landed he got sick on the way to our hotel.
Water Llama would not have allowed that to happen.
Yeah, exactly. You would have drank more water. I kept trying to be like, drink more water. Christopher, please drink some water. And you were like, I'm fine. You were like so cranky because you were trying to sleep. And I was like, the flight attendant was walking past. I was like, can I just have like a couple extra cups of water for him? Like,
yeah, but Water Llama. Now
it's good to no longer have to be the water tracker for you.
You're welcome. And the last one that I like to use is Maps Quiz. One of the most embarrassing moments of my travel was when we were in a charming little restaurant in the Czech Republic, in Prague, and the leader of our food tour asked us, what part of Europe would you consider Czech Republic to be in? And I said Central Europe. And she said, okay, I would agree with that. What are the countries that border the Czech Republic? And I could not think of all of them. And I was like, this is just atrocious. And ever since, you know that I've been doing a Maps Quiz daily.
Yeah.
I straight up pride myself in international geography.
You probably school Wordle every time you do it.
I do.
Yeah.
There's also, remember the website Sporkle? Did you ever use Sporkle?
Yes.
Okay. I know like a lot of like bar trivia uses Sporkle. Sporkle has a name all 197 countries of the world in 15 minutes. And I will frequently do it in 10. I am like a machine on that. And it is something that question spurred in me. So like I like to know where I'm at in the world sort of thing. And not just like, oh, I am east of California or something like that. So yeah, nice. I like Maps Quiz. Those are our honorable mentions. What are the or what is your first app that you included here? And I think you picked 5 and I picked 5, right?
Yes. So our 10 main apps. My first one is Skyscanner. It's such a great app. I really enjoy it because it's where you can check a bunch of different flight prices, and they will try to find like the real best deal because they will combine different airlines sometimes and find what is going to be the cheapest route for you. And I use that to find flight prices and stuff and get a good deal. And you can do economy, business, first class, whatever you want to do for it. You can sort it based on like the fastest time, the best match, price, whatever. And you can also, if you're not sure where you want to go, you can just say, put in your home airport and do everywhere as the destination and put in your dates and it'll give you the cheapest places to visit. Or you could do any time as well, where you could say, hey, I live in Cleveland, where we live. What is the cheapest place to go in any time or in the month of February or something like that? And it really helps if you can't decide where to go and you just want to get away somewhere. I think that's a really good tool to use for that. So Skyscanner, the app is great. Their website's great. I really enjoy checking out flight prices on that.
You know something that we should do? We should say whether the other one of us has ever used the app that they just talked about.
Have you ever used it?
No.
Okay, I use it all the time.
That's wild to me.
Like if I'm curious about how much a flight's going to cost, I just whip out my Skyscanner and I'm just like, oh, how much is this going to cost? And then figure it out.
See, you and I approach that completely differently. I like Google it and, well, I go to United because they are my airline of choice.
Oh, gosh.
And then I'm like, oh, man, that's expensive.
Or you could go to Skyscanner and find it cheaper on like Delta or American or something else.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. Fair enough. My first one that came to mind was All Trails. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily like travel specific, but it is something that I absolutely love to use, especially when we are doing an outdoorsy sort of trip or hiking or what have you. I mean, we've used this in California. We've used it in Vermont. We've used it in Montana. We've used it here. Anytime we are going to go out on a walk or out on a hike, I will generally use All Trails. The amount of detail is exquisite in All Trails. I really, really like this app, especially because on some of the trail systems, they can get a little bit complicated. And if you make a wrong turn, then like, well, who knows what's going to happen? And they are like exact. And they will pick out like interesting landmarks too, right? Like at the ski lift or something like that. And they're like, you'll notice a path in the northwest direction. And I'm like, no, I do. Oh my gosh, there it is. Mm-hmm. And it's fantastic. So I really, really like All Trails. I also like how you can download the trail or download the map beforehand. It will map out like where like bathrooms are or water is or stuff like that as well. Points of interest along the trail so that you don't pass something and you're looking to the right, but if you look to the left, you see a beautiful view of whatever it is. Really, really good app for those that are hiking or doing kind of more nature sorts of travels.
Nice. My next app is also another airline-related one called Hopper. It has a little pink bunny or a bunny. It's a pink app with a little bunny on it. The great thing about it, it's another great app where you can search for flight prices. But what I really enjoy is that it will predict when the flight prices will drop. So you can say, for instance, Cleveland to Johannesburg or something like that, and it will tell you how expensive it is, if it's a good deal or not, and then it will also say like, oh, if you wait until this time, the prices will likely drop by this amount. If you wait until this time, it'll go up by this amount. And you can also set an alert so that it will let you know, it'll watch the flight for you and tell you if there are increases and decreases in the cost and when to book. So that's what we did when we went to South Africa back in 2017. We put all that stuff in Hopper, and it told us when the flight prices dropped, and then we went on ahead and booked our flight. So it was a really good app to use if you want to track your flight prices, especially if you know where you're going and when you want to go. Yeah.
I agree with that, and I have used Hopper.
Yeah.
Yeah. My next one is, again, not like travel specific, but one that I like to use while traveling, and that is Untapped, the beer tracking app. Mm-hmm. They have really fun, like, geo-specific badges. So if you are in, like, South America, for instance, and you check in some South American beers, you will earn something specific to South America that you can't really earn unless you have so many beers. And a lot of the times they're like from some smaller breweries. The distribution isn't as far out, and you really can't get those sorts of badges unless you go there, right? Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of fun using this app. All around the world. I mean, we unfortunately, we started using it after our first big international trip to South Africa. So I don't have any African badges.
Well, I guess we'll get some.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have like country specific, they have like continent specific, they have region specific, all of this kind of stuff. And it's also just kind of a neat way to look back on travels. And like there was one time that we were thinking of like, what was that beer that we had on our honeymoon that had, it was either a leopard or a jaguar on it. And like, we couldn't remember, and it was Leo in Thailand. So it's kind of cool to say, well, I know that I had it in this month because this is when the trip was, but man, what was that called? And Untapped never fails.
Yeah, that's great. So another app for me, again, kind of airline related, but not about booking. This is about finding your seat, and that is Seat Guru. What I love about this app is even before you book your flight, if you want to find a specific seat, especially if you're flying business class and you want to fly like a nice, updated, renovated business class seat, or you just want to make sure you're not sitting next to the lavatory or somewhere where your seat won't recline, or it turns out that window seat doesn't have a window, something like that. It's really great. You type in, it's a website and an app, Seat Guru. You just type in your flight number and the date you're leaving, or you can type in your route and the date you're leaving, and it will show you the type of airplane that is most of the time, like that's the airplane that's used. You can then check out the seat maps of that airline, and it will show you the best seats on the plane, where you're going to get the most leg room, kind of the worst seats of the plane, ones to avoid, things to note. And I think that's really helpful when it comes to choosing your seat on plane. So I will check that all the time before fully booking a flight, or when it comes to time to choose my seats on the plane, to make sure we're getting a good seat. So Seat Guru, that's always a great app to have.
I have never used that one either. I feel like you are kind of the keeper of the keys.
I just feel like because I travel so much, and I mean, you're obviously a very experienced traveler too, but I feel like, I don't know, that's like my thing.
Yeah.
You just sort of let me take the reins on choosing our seats, because I know that you typically like an aisle seat. I typically like a window seat, so I try to get that where possible, but if not, then it's usually me in the middle, and if I'm going to sit in the middle, I'd at least like the best middle seat there is.
Yeah.
So we can sit together.
That's fair. That's fair. My next one is also an app that I recently started using that I wish that I had started using maybe a year ago, and that is called Free Dive Apnea. This is an app that works and trains you to hold your breath for a longer period of time. And it is geared towards those who snorkel and scuba dive. We have talked many times on this podcast how I love snorkeling. I love being in the water. I love looking at the fish. I can spend hours out there. I did on our honeymoon. I would briefly come up.
He was a little scuba Steve over here.
Yeah.
On our honeymoon. I couldn't get him out of the water.
It was,
yeah.
I mean, I would briefly come back up just for food and then go right back out.
Pet the dogs on the beach and then go right back out.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the things is like snorkeling is a lot more fun when you can stay under for longer, right? So,
well, I mean, if you're floating on the surface, I guess you don't really need to hold your breath because you have your snorkel. But if you want to dive deeper into the water, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, Free Dive Apnea. It's a really neat app. It starts off with having you hold your breath for as long as possible. And then based upon how long you can hold your breath, it will give you different exercises to do. So you'll be breathing normally for a certain period of time, hold your breath, breathe normally for a little bit less, hold your breath, and then so on. And eventually it is supposed to train your body to be able to hold on to more CO2 and need less oxygen, which is pretty neat.
All right, my next app is another practical app, Google Translate app, which is always nice, especially if you want to read a menu, if you want to see what that sign says, you want to translate what you're trying to say to someone to communicate with them. That's always a great app to have, is the Google Translate app, just in general, especially if you're going to another country that doesn't speak your native language and you don't know the language very well.
Mine is an app that the mascot for this app, a little green owl, would be shaking its head at you for recommending Google Translate. And that is Duolingo.
But you can't translate through Duolingo.
You can learn
But you can
languages through Duolingo. I love Duolingo. Kat and I have both been on Duolingo for years at this point, learning separate languages. But I will say that one of the most rewarding experiences traveling abroad is being able to struggle through a conversation in a language that is not your own, and to have people be patient. And like, it
means a lot when they're patient too.
It does, but it's also really, really neat. Like, one of my favorite moments of our travels was we did a tasting menu at Finca Rosa Blanca in Costa Rica, and our waiter that evening came up and asked if we speak Spanish or English. And I answered him that I am going to try to speak Spanish. And he said okay, and he would only speak to me in Spanish from then on. And there were a few times that I had to ask him to repeat himself. Mm-hmm. But I was able to absorb everything and then tell you what we were eating, because it wasn't like those are French fries and that is a steak or something like that was easily identifiable. Mm-hmm. It was like, man, that is a sauce that I have no idea what 17 ingredients are in there. And he would tell us, and it was so cool. It was so, so cool to have that experience. So, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to be fluent. I'm certainly not fluent in Spanish, but it is really, really neat to, number one, be able to have that sort of experience while traveling. And then number two, just to kind of put yourself in someone else's shoes, right? Because English is not everyone's first language. And something that hit me, this was years ago when someone told this to me, is that I am so much smarter in Spanish than I am in English. And I was like, wow, that hits me, because I would consider myself a fairly intelligent person if we're speaking English. And I come across not nearly as intelligent if I am speaking another language, obviously, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to communicate, I guess, in all the nuances of another language when if you haven't spoken it for a long time and if you didn't grow up speaking it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is not going to be something where you're like, oh, in 3 months we're going here and I'm going to learn as much as I can. I mean, cool. Yeah, absolutely do that. But like, if you have a bucket list trip that, oh, I've always wanted to go to France, and we're saving up to go in whatever, start learning French and be able to speak French when you get there, or Spanish, or what have you. But Duolingo is an app that both of us use on a daily basis. Yep.
Gotta love that little green owl. My last app, always very helpful, and that is TripAdvisor. That is just an app we use a lot of the time, especially when it comes to planning our trips, as far as finding hotels. I like to read the reviews. I like to comb through reviews. I have a certain threshold between price and rating that I like to check out, because while we don't necessarily plan all of our trips based around a certain hotel, we're not trying to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on fancy hotels, I do like to have a nice hotel with good amenities. So I'm willing to pay a little bit more for that sometimes. But for the most part, we like to splurge on more of the activities and things that we're doing in a destination. But TripAdvisor just really helps us sort of narrow down places. You get to see photos, both that, the hotel puts up, but then also what travelers put up. So you know what it really looks like when it's not staged. And then you have you get the reviews, and you can even see what a couples think of it. When did they travel there? What was that like? So that's always a lot of fun. You can also check things like their amenities, what they offer. So I just like that for TripAdvisor. It'll also say some things that you can do, like popular things and stuff like that. So it's kind of one of the first places I check when it comes to trip planning, especially for hotels. And that's what I use it for the most part, but you can use it for other things like activities and stuff. But yeah, it's nice to have on my phone because then I can use that.
So it's funny that you use it for hotels. I use it for restaurants.
Oh, nice.
I go to TripAdvisor, and like, especially when we're at the hotel or we're where we're going to be, I will pull it up and I'll say like, okay, within this many minutes walking or what have you. And what I really like about it too is that it has like filters, right? Like we will generally eat more vegetarian or vegan, so veggie friendly, vegan friendly, those sorts of things.
That was really helpful in Budapest when we were trying to find a place.
Yes.
Because, yeah, you have some people that are vegan in your family that really can't eat dairy and all these other things for various reasons. And
right.
We had found like a great restaurant that was able to accommodate that, which was great.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I really like using it for dining because a lot of the times, if you search like best restaurants in whatever city, right? A lot of the times there are going to be some pretty pricey options on there. Yeah. If you go on TripAdvisor and you see that like the number one restaurant is like this dinky little hole in the wall and like, yeah, 100% go to that restaurant. We used it in Hanoi. We used it in Chiang Mai. At least I was combing TripAdvisor restaurant reviews.
You use it more so for restaurants. I use it more early on in my planning for hotels.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a fantastic app to use before, during, and after. Leave reviews.
That also really, really helps. If you really liked a tour, if you really liked a hotel, restaurant, whatever, it really helps to leave reviews because then other people can find them. So I always make sure when I get home from a trip, you bust out all of the different hotels and things that we did and leave some reviews for them.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's always a good thing to do.
Nice. My last one here is going to make me sound like an 86-year-old man. And it's actually two separate apps, but I'm going to combine them into one.
Okay.
Because they're used together, and that is eBird/Merlin Bird ID.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now I know what it is.
Yeah, these are like the bird watching apps that people use. Merlin Bird ID is very helpful because if you are out and you are not an expert birder, I am not, but I look at it and generally I can tell if a bird is smaller than a robin, between a robin and a goose, or larger than a goose. Like I'm pretty comfortable making that assessment. And those sorts of questions are the ones that they will ask. And then you can say like, hey, these are the colors that I see right now. I see it in a tree as opposed to on the ground, those sorts of things. And then based upon where you are, it will say, maybe it is. And then it'll give you generally like a few suggestions that could match it.
And photos, so you can be like, oh, that actually looks like the bird.
Yes, exactly. And then eBird allows you, it will kind of follow like where you are. It's a GPS, kind of like a hiking app sort of thing. But you can say like, this is where I saw this. This is where I saw this, and those sorts of things.
And we kind of discovered that when we were in Costa Rica, right? Especially when we were at Finca Rosa Blanca.
That's where I downloaded it.
And we need a birding tour, or we did a birding tour, and he was using the app too, and he was showing us that, and we were like, oh, this is cool.
He was, but Juan Carlos used it at Tambopata Research Center in Peru. Yeah,
I don't remember that.
That was where I first got turned on to eBird.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I remembered it right before we were going on the birding tour.
When Ulysses was giving us all the details on all the birds.
Yeah, and I was like, because he was looking things up, and I was looking things up, and he was like, do you use eBird? And I was like, this is actually my first time. But it's like, we've used it in Cuyahoga Valley National Park.
Yeah.
We've used it around here. We used it in Costa Rica. I really enjoy it.
Yeah?
It's really, really cool. And then I actually went back and like retroactively looked through some of our pictures that we took in like the Amazon and those sorts of things and entered them in too to like see what sort of birds we found, which, yeah, I think it's kind of cool, especially if you are not with a guide. Like I know we took a few solo hikes in Costa Rica and it would have been nice to be using it at that point.
Yeah. No, definitely. Especially when we found the curassow and we didn't know what that was at first.
That was one of the coolest birds I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other fun apps that you've got, or is that it?
I mentioned all of my honorable mentions at the top of the episode.
Yeah, and just another random thing, if you are loyal to a certain airline, have points with a certain airline, or fly a certain airline a lot, it helps to download their app too. That makes checking in easier, especially when you're not near a laptop. You can download your boarding passes from it. So it's really convenient to have that too. So I highly recommend that. It's just another little practical app.
United has an award-winning app.
Okay. Anyway, so those are our favorite travel apps that we have on our phones. Let us know, what are your favorite apps that you have on your phone for travel. You can always reach us on Twitter at WWHoneymoon, Instagram at Worldwide Honeymoon, or email kat@worldwidehoneymoon.com. But thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to rate and review our podcast. It takes less than a few minutes and really helps other people find us. Also, if you're enjoying this awesome free information on both the blog and podcast, when you're booking your next trip, head over to worldwidehoneymoon.com/resources and use the links provided. We earn a small commission at no cost to you when you book through these links, and these are all brands and companies we know, love, and use, like Skyscanner for finding the best flight prices, World Nomads for the best travel insurance, TripAdvisor for hotel bookings and reviews, and even Amazon for all of your travel purchases.
Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Wherever you are, wherever you go, remember to make every day a worldwide honeymoon.